Wake up with Matt in the morning.
Hey, thanks for waking up with me once again. Matt here from Matt in the Morning. So, gotta tell you, I'm super excited about this one. Pulled pork. We're doing a pork butt, guys. These are awesome. You can't go wrong with a pork butt. Some people call it a Boston butt, some just call it a pork shoulder. Let's just start out by saying the pork butt is not the tail side of the pig. The shoulder. Don't really know why they call it a pork butt or Boston butt. I guess I should have looked into that, but here we are. So this is going to be great. Now my process takes a few days. There's 100,000,000.3 ways to do a pork butt, to do anything barbecued really. But this is just the way I do it. We're going to brine it for 24 to 48 hours, probably somewhere in between. Then we're going to take it out and we're going to do a dry rub. We make our own that we put on for about a good day or so-ish. And then we're going to throw it on low and slow. About this one. And what's really good about this one is when you throw it on the pellet grill, you set your temp, you put your temp probes in, and you go about your business. You go back to bed, go to work, whatever you want. You just want to monitor that temp. Because once it gets to 165, sometimes I do a little bit more, depending on how the bark looks. Once it gets to 165, you might as well wrap it. But for those of you that don't wrap it, that's not wrong either. Let me just say, if you're like, why don't wrap it? Or Uncle Billy doesn't wrap it. He just puts it on low and slow. That's fine, Uncle Billy ain't wrong. This is just the way I do it. So 165, that's about the temp. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it, keep it on there, and then we're gonna monitor for about 203. Between 195 and 205 is what you look for. I like to go between 200 and 203. Personal preference, no real reason. I just like to go right in between-ish. So anyways, really excited about this one. Pulled pork coming up. Let's go to the kitchen and get started.
Hey, welcome to the kitchen. So you already know what we got going on today, which is pulled pork. Step one is going to be we're going to brine it. Well, we're also going to trim some of the fat cap. Please keep in mind there's 100,000,000.2 ways to do pulled pork, and everything's an argument. So some people will say you can't trim the fat cap, you got to keep it on. Well, then do you do fat cap up or fat cap down? I don't know. The way I do it is I trim it. If you keep it on, that's okay, that's right too. If you do it fat cap up, that's right too. There's no wrong way. I trim mine, so that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna trim it, then we're gonna put it into a brine for 24 to 48 hours. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's the brine. I have 12 cups of water. I have 2 apples, cored and sliced up, and 2 bay leaves. I'm gonna drop that in. Then we got 1 cup of coarse salt and 1 cup of brown sugar. Now it's very important, I always use kosher salt. I never use the iodized, whatever it's called, table salt. Never, never, never. I try to rarely use that in general. I mean, I have some in the cupboard behind me, but kosher salt's the way to go. So we're just gonna drop that in there as well. And at this point, I'm just gonna put it back on the stove, bring it up to a boil, and just steadily stir until it's all dissolved. Once it's dissolved, I'm gonna let it come up to room temp, and then I'm gonna put it in the fridge overnight. In the morning, we'll go ahead and drop the pork shoulder down into we'll have a different container for it. You'll see that. Drop it into that, cover it, and it'll sit in the fridge, like I say, 24 to 48 hours. So anyhow, yeah, let me go ahead and get this back on the stove, and we'll go ahead and get the pork shoulder out here. We'll start trimming it up, and we'll go ahead and make the dry rub as well while we're at it. So might as well get everything prepped. So give me a second, I'll be right back. All right guys, I'm back, and we're ready to go ahead and trim some of the fat off this pork shoulder. Behind me, as you can see, we have the brine. I brought it to a boil and let it sit there while everything dissolved. Took just a few minutes. Now it's just gonna sit there until the morning, that's it. So brines are super simple to make, and you can do, there's again, it's like anything else. There's a bazillion ways to do everything. Brines can get pretty intense with how they're done, or they can be pretty basic like the one I just did. So it's all up to you. Yeah, but that's one we're doing. Now let's go ahead and get to the pork shoulder, the star of the show. Pork shoulder, pork butt, Boston butt, whatever you want to call it. I call it a pork butt, and I want to make clear for those that don't know, a pork butt is the shoulder. It's not the butt. We're not cooking the tail side of the pig. It's the shoulder. So as I'm trimming, I'll just kind of explain. So first of all, this fat cap isn't as aggressive as the last one I had. And I usually always get mine. It comes a 2-pack. I get the boneless pork shoulders, pork butts from Costco. And the last one, the fat cap, was about 3/4 of an inch, if not an inch in some spots. And I trimmed it down to about a 1/4 inch. The thing is, you know, people will argue against why they don't cut it off, why they do and all that. Why I do it is simply because this cut has plenty of fat throughout it. And I want some of this meat to be getting the smoke, not the fat. I want to get a good bark on this thing, which we'll get into later as we start cooking it. For me, it just seems to come out better when I trim the fat cap. Now, some people use a fat cap and say they do fat cap down to protect the meat. Some people say they keep the fat cap on and do fat cap up so that all this fat is dripping down and making all sorts of goodness. I don't know. I trim it. That's what I do. People are going to start arguing about it. Somebody's going to say, well, my Uncle Billy, he does fat cap down. Well, your Uncle Billy ain't wrong. But he ain't right. Everybody's right. When it comes to some of the stuff we do with barbecue, there's no right way, there's no wrong way. It's just your way. As long as it comes out good. So what we'll do one of these days is we'll do a pork shoulder side by side. We'll keep fat cap on. You know, we'll do it where we wrap one, we don't wrap one. You know, also what I do is once we come to 165, I wrap it. And some people say I don't wrap it. Okay guys, so now I'm done trimming it. I just did a little bit of trimming on that fat cap, not much. This thing is ready for the morning. So I'm just gonna put this thing in the fridge covered. And then in the morning, I'm gonna drop it in a different container with the brine, top it off with some apple juice, I'll show you that. And it's just gonna sit for 24 to 48 hours. Okay, so now let's go ahead and mix up our dry rub. So again, brine, 24 to 48 hours. Pull it out, wipe it off, then I'm gonna put dry rub on it, which we're gonna make right here, right now. And that's gonna go on for about 24 hours. Then we put it on the smoker. So let's get right into it. So down here, what we have is 1 pound of dark brown sugar. We're gonna add in 1/3 of a cup. I did a little bit more. This is probably closer to 1/2 a cup of kosher salt. Again, kosher salt. I don't use table salt, the iodized, whatever you're used to, table salt, kosher. Next up is 1/4 cup of paprika, and there's also 2 tablespoons of cayenne pepper and 2 tablespoons of chili powder. I was gonna actually use smoked paprika, but I'm out. What do you do? Next up, 2 tablespoons onion powder, 2 tablespoons granulated garlic. I like the granulated garlic versus garlic powder. Garlic powder seems to clump up sometimes. I don't know, I don't like it. And then a tablespoon of black pepper, simple. Last but not least, 2 teaspoons of cumin. Now in this particular recipe, the guy that I got this from, he'll sometimes just mix this up and just use this as a dry rub, but sometimes he'll add apple cider vinegar to form a paste. And so once he's done brining, he would take and actually rub the pork butt in this paste and then wrap it in tin foil tight and put it in the fridge for 24 hours. I've done it both ways. I've done the paste and I've done just the dry rub. I couldn't really tell a difference, but then again, to really test something like that, you need to do a side-by-side. So maybe one of these days we'll do a side-by-side and we'll try it as a dry rub as well as a paste. That'd be a fun test. All right, and now the brine is ready to go. So we're gonna go ahead and drop the pork butt in, now that we've got it, that fat cap trimmed. Just gonna drop this pork butt right on into the brine. And as you can see, it doesn't quite cover, just barely will cover the whole thing, and it kind of wants to float there. So we're just gonna top off with some apple juice. Just basic, whatever you got, whatever you prefer, apple juice. And just like that, we're ready to go. I will end up setting something here just to kind of hold it down a little bit. Maybe I won't, maybe it'll be fine. Anyways, there we go. So that's getting everything prepped. We made the brine, let the brine cool down to room temp. We put it in this other container. We took our pork butt, we trimmed the fat cap. You don't have to, I do. Dropped it into here, and we know we have our dry rub prepped. So at this point, we're ready to go. We just have to wait 24 to 48 hours. Ours will sit for about 30-ish. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna cover it and put it in the fridge, sit and wait, let the magic happen. All right, so it's been about 32 hours now, and the brining's done. We're good to go. I already have it drained. As you can see down here, I already have it drained and patted dry with some paper towels. And we're gonna go ahead and put on the dry rub that we made from earlier. Now, it's better if you have a shaker for it. I obviously do not, so here we are. And you wanna have a good thick coating of rub. This is a big piece of meat. Don't have to be scared about over seasoning it. So I'm gonna end up using most of this dry rub that we made. And what's gonna happen then is I'm gonna put it back in the fridge, covered for another 24 hours. After that, we're gonna pull it out, get this thing up to room temp, and then put it on the smoker. So you can see the way I do mine, I have a few steps to it, but it's good. It comes out really good. It doesn't mean the way somebody else does it doesn't come out good, but this is just the way I do it. And we're gonna have more of these pork butt videos in the future because there is many different ways to do it. So I wanna have a couple videos where we're doing two at once, where we can try two different styles at the same time and really test it out. So we're gonna have plenty of these in the future. This is the way I do it now. Comes out really good. I'm really excited about this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna finish getting this dry rub on here. I'm gonna flip it, get this good and coated, put it in the fridge. Yeah, and that's about it. So we'll come back once we're ready to get this thing to room temp and fire up the smoker. All right, so the dry rub's been on now for about a day, and we're out here late at night. Got it cranked up to 225. We've already got this thing on too. There we go. Kind of hard to see because it's dark out, but I've got the pork butt on the top rack. I've got a pan below it to catch the juices. I've got my temp probe set to 165. When this thing goes off, we're gonna get up and wrap it. So for now, we just let the Green Mountain Grill work its magic. All right guys, so at this point, this thing has been on the pellet grill for about 6.5, almost 7 hours. We got an internal temp of 164. Some spots are about 170, but dead center, we got it about 164. That's where we wanna be to go ahead and wrap it. Now wrapping is one of those things you don't have to do. If you do it, you can use butcher paper or aluminum foil. I've used aluminum foil, and today we're just going to use butcher paper. It's personal preference. Some say that the tin foil can cause it to kind of steam the meat, so I don't know. We're just using butcher paper today. So as you can see below, we got some good bark on this thing. This thing is looking really good. You could let it go a little bit longer if you wanted. At this point, it's really about getting the bark where you want it, how you want it looking. So I'm happy with the way it looks. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing. We're just gonna throw it right down here on the butcher paper. Get it wrapped up. I'll probably roll it a couple times. My wrapping is not very fancy. But there we go. That's all I'm doing, guys. I'm just bing, bang, boom. It's wrapped, ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this back on the grill. We're gonna keep it at the same temp, 225. And I'll get a couple probes put back into here, and we're gonna be looking for about 200 to 205. 203 would be perfect. So yeah, we'll do that and get this thing pulled off. All right guys, here we are. So this thing has been on the pellet grill for 10.5 hours. I had to get a little tricky with it. We had it in butcher paper. I had to take it out and put it in foil just because I was on a time crunch. So the way it looks down here, I would typically like a little bit better of a bark, but it is what it is. So anyways, we're gonna go ahead and shred this thing and see how it turned out. We're also gonna add a little bit of barbecue sauce to one of them. It smells delicious. So let's go ahead and start shredding. And you can see right there that good bark. Again, it's not quite how I would like it. It's not perfecto, but it's good. These shredders I'm using are new to me, and I'm a huge fan of them. These things are way better than the typical claws. These are a Pampered Chef claws, and they're working out great. So and there we have it. Now I'm gonna end up shredding this up some more. But this is what we got. Look, you can see right here, we got a real good smoke ring. Look at this right here. Look at this piece of bark. And the taste is prime time. Prime time. So yeah, there we have it. Like I said, I'm just gonna shred it up a little bit more. Get some barbecue sauce on it. I made some Eastern North Carolina, to be specific. Sauce to go with it. That's gonna be amazing. And my buddy Clark made some coleslaw. So yeah, we're gonna plate this up here in a little bit. So hey, again, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, comment, share, like it, all that good stuff. Every click helps. Thanks for watching.